In 2022, we celebrate 130 years of HBCU football. On December 27th, 1892, Livingstone and Biddle College, now known as Johnson C. Smith University, played in Salisbury, North Carolina, with Biddle winning 5-0. Over time, HBCU football has evolved. HBCU football's popularity continues to rise. Millions attend games each year and millions more watch on television. The HBCU bands provide some of the top entertainment in the country. Over that time, some of the best players to ever play in the National Football League played at HBCUs. Every Monday through Friday on the HBCU Football Daily Podcast, national radio and television host Donal Ware takes a look at what's happening in HBCU football and talks with coaches, players, administrators, and media about the 2022 season. Make sure you join the conversation on social media by using the hashtag HBCU130. Now, here's your host, Donal Ware.
You've got it locked to the HBCU Football Daily Podcast for today, Monday, October 3rd. I'm Donal Ware. We're already in the month of October and nearing the halfway mark of the HBCU football season, and things are getting hot and heavy as conference play really starts to kick in, especially with the upcoming week 6. Of course, we know that the SWAC is pretty much in conference play, but still some opportunities once you really get into the divisional side of play. As we do here each and every Manic Monday, we talk about we run down the scoreboard from the previous week. So let's take a look at the Week 5 scoreboard, which began on Thursday. We had a couple of games moved to Thursday because of Hurricane Ian, and I hope you and your family are safe as a lot of people, especially in Florida. Our thoughts and prayers are with those affected by Hurricane Ian, particularly in Florida. Here in North Carolina, we weren't hit as bad as we thought we may have been, and nowhere near where other places were hit, and more specifically in Florida. So things kicked off on Thursday. Fayetteville State defeated Shawan 13-10. It's a big win by Fayetteville State, who already has one loss in the conference, going back to last week's loss to Virginia Union. But really with Fayetteville State, still everything in front of Fayetteville State as divisional play begins on next week. For Shawan, same thing. Still an opportunity to win that Northern Division, although the Hawks right now are 2-3 on the season. Everything still in front of Shawan. Boy, Johnson C. Smith jumped all over Elizabeth City State and defeated the Vikings 49-14. It was South Carolina State falling to South Carolina 50-10. And those were all of the games that were played on Thursday. Let's take a look at Saturday's games now. But it was Alabama A&M finally getting a win. Its first of the season, 35-27 over Bethune-Cookman. And you look at Alabama A&M, really able to get that running game going a whole bunch, particularly in the form of Donovan Eaglin, who had 190 yards rushing in the game, had 2 rushing touchdowns, and also had a pass receiving touchdown as well. Let me go back to the Fayetteville State game because it's a young man by the name of Cameron Merrill, who is a defensive end, had 3 sacks in the game. Both of those young men are in the running for the HBCU National Player of the Week, which will be announced on today. Florida A&M kind of getting back on track, 34-7 victory over Mississippi Valley State. The Delta Devils remain winless on the season. Seemed like some promise really for Mississippi Valley State, especially the way that Valley finished last year, but it just has not translated to 2022. It was Prairie View A&M over Grambling, 34-14 in the Dallas State Fair Classic, 34-14 over Prairie View A&M in that State Fair Classic in Dallas. Prairie View A&M is on a roll right now. As a matter of fact, 3-0 in the SWAC. And we know Prairie View A&M is the defending Western Division champs. Meanwhile, for Grambling State, 0-2 in conference play. After that big win over, was it Northwest State? It just hasn't gone well for Grambling at all. It was Alabama State just getting by Texas Southern 16-13. Southern defeated Arkansas Pine Bluff 59-3, and some struggles continue now for Arkansas Pine Bluff. And then remember, Arkansas Pine Bluff was your Western Division champs in the spring of 2021. North Carolina Central suffered its first defeat of the season, losing to Campbell 48-18. Campbell in that Big South, Campbell's got a really good football team. Mike Minter, the former Carolina Panther, is the head football coach there. Delaware State gets a good win, 14-9 over Robert Morris. You look at Delaware State, they're eking out some wins, 3-2. That's good. Again, Rod Milstead has that program moving in the right direction. Morgan State equals its record, or evens its record, I should say, on the season now at 2-2. Defeated Virginia University of Lynchburg 44-10. It was Howard falling to Yale 34-26 in the Harmony Classic. North Carolina A&T defeated Bryant 24-13, 2 straight wins now for North Carolina A&T on this season. And more importantly, it was the Big South opener for both teams where A&T got the best of Bryant. Norfolk State winless on the season, lost to Sacred Heart 31-14. Surprised that Norfolk State has not won a football game to this point. But again, for Norfolk State, just like every other MEAC team, everything is in front. Win the MEAC, you go to the Celebration Bowl, and ultimately give yourself a shot at the HBCU National Championship. Boy, Tennessee State, winless on the season, falling to Lane 28-27 in overtime. The thing about that game, that was the John Merritt Classic. Tennessee State rarely loses that John Merritt Classic. And again, I mean, we can talk D2, D1. Lane's got a good program, no doubt about it. Took Arkansas Pine Bluff, I think lost to Arkansas Pine Bluff first game of the season. Well, did lose to Arkansas Pine Bluff. I believe the score was 48-42. Lane can put some points on the board. But boy, if you're Tennessee State, things aren't going well, to say the least, right now. But again, conference play still looming. But that OBC is tough. Bluefield State now 3-2 on the season, a 22-19 victory over Apprentice. Virginia State defeated Shaw 28-24, scored a touchdown, did the Trojans with 12 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter to propel the Trojans to victory. Again, Virginia State undefeated in conference play. If you're Shaw, still everything in front of you, and that you've got to play the division, which is not great other than Fayetteville State, but that's going to be a big game. I believe that game is going to be in Fayetteville this year. Virginia Union just continues to roll, remains undefeated on the season, 69-0 over St. Augustine's. Langston also remains undefeated, yes, on the season, 43-3 over Lyon. Lincoln of Missouri remains winless on the season, falling to Central Oklahoma 45-3. Albany State continues to roll, defeats Miles 20-3. Bowie State gets back on track with a 53-7 victory over Livingstone. It was Benedict in our HBCU National Game of the Week. Benedict routed Fort Valley State 45-13. I thought the game would be closer than that. I thought that Benedict would win the game, but I don't know if I thought they'd win the game 45-13. A lot of even, that was one of those games where you looked at the Fort Valley State running game big time, but I looked at Benedict overall defensively and with the balance of run and pass, and I thought Benedict was the better team. And I would suspect, I don't know, but again, today, the HBCU coaches and media polls will be released, and I suspect that Benedict will be moving up in the polls. Don't look now, but Tuskegee on a bit of a roll, 45-43 over Clark Atlanta. Doesn't matter how you get it done, just get it done. And the Golden Tigers did just that. Florida Memorial falling to Kaiser 48-7. West Virginia State getting back on track, defeated Alderson Broaddus 30-3. It was Central State over Allen 35-32. Allen's, even though it's first year in the SIAC, Allen did lose. Allen's competitive. They're definitely competing. We know the Winston-Salem State in Lincoln, Pennsylvania game was canceled. It was supposed to be homecoming in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, but that was due to Hurricane Ian. On yesterday, Kentucky State gets its first victory of the season, 28-13 over Savannah State. And Edward Waters gets its first victory of the season, 49-20 over Morehouse, as the Maroon Tigers remain winless on the season. So you've got some teams that are winless. You've got some teams that are still undefeated. And we're going to talk more about what we saw from week 5 in HBCU football tomorrow on Takeaway Tuesday. Don't forget to tell a couple of friends about the HBCU Football Daily Podcast, where you can find us on our website at boxtorow.com. Also, you can find us on iHeartMedia.com or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget that you can also find us on the Box to Row YouTube page. Talk with you tomorrow.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. You can also listen to the podcast at boxtorow.com, iHeartMedia, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to get your HBCU football fix on Box to Row with Donal Ware each weekend on the radio station near you, and on SiriusXM on HBCU, Channel 142, and on ESPNU Radio on SiriusXM, Channel 84. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Box to Row for the latest in HBCU football, and don't forget to tell a friend.